Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Boffy. I'm Head of Inclusion and Diversity. It doesn't matter which way the words go around, really, but you know, we work in policing, so it has to be accurate. So just to clarify that, I'm here to talk to you about pay gaps. Obviously, that's why we're all here today. We're looking at pay gaps. And when Denise asked me, come and talk to, you know, the IEDP members and some guests about pay gaps, I kind of thought, I don't know anything about pay gaps. I know we've got one. I know we've probably got one in our Bame and our disabled workforce as well. I know what our pay gap is for women, but I don't really know anything about pay gaps. I've not done any work around pay gaps. Then I went away and I started to think about, oh, yeah, I have. Of course I have. Everything that I've been doing, I've been in post for 5 years now, and everything that I've been doing at British Transport Police is about pay gaps in some way, shape or form. So what is a pay gap? What problem are we describing? Are we just describing, you know, a lack of diverse workforce? Here ended the lesson. Surely that's it. We just need to employ more women, more disabled people, more people from a BAME background. Done. And we need to get them up into the upper echelons of the organisation to balance that pay gap out. Done. Surely this is a really simple solution, is it not? What's preventing us? And that's when I kind of went away and kind of thought about, well, what have we been doing? What have we been focusing on over the last 5 years? What problem have we identified that we're actually trying to remedy here in order to prevent those pay gaps from happening? We had to look at our limitations. We're a police service. I think we've got a couple of my colleagues, so I feel slightly under pressure. I'm going to be judged when I get back to the office. But we had to be really realistic about where those problems are for us as a police service. We're not private sector. We're not third sector. We don't have the facility to be able to just hire into the top. Let's hire some BAME people, let's hire some women, let's hire some disabled people. We can't do that. It's just not that simple for us. So it was really important I actually looked at, well, what are the limitations here? What is our problem? We're an experiential progression and promotion path within BTP. And to put it simply, in order to get to the top, you have to start at the bottom. There's no alternative in policing. And it's very, very similar in the kind of military environment as well. So any kind of emergency services really, particularly policing, you can't make chief constable without starting as a PC. And the difference here is salaries. PC is not going to earn the same as a chief constable, obviously. As you go up the rank, you get more salary. But also, as you go up the rank, there are less and less opportunities. I'm going to speak a little bit about what those limitations are, why there are less and less opportunities. Some of the things that we've done, and some of the things that we've yet to do. Because I'm not coming here to talk to you about how BTP has cracked it. We've cracked it. We're the best police, although we are the best police service in the UK, but we've done a lot of work. But there are still things that we haven't done, that we are still finding problematic. And one of the reasons for that is that magic C word, culture. Policing culture. What does that look like? When you think of policing, what's the first image you have? White, middle-aged man. Usually a white, middle-aged man. Most people see white, middle-aged men in uniform. That's what policing is to them. It's a perception, but that perception is actually a reality. And it's a reality we're still trying to combat at the moment. We're still trying to adjust, to adapt. And I know, obviously, talking about neurodiversity, I'm not going to actually focus on neurodiversity today because we've got much more important people in the room who could talk much more eloquently than I can about it. But ultimately, culture is what's preventing our individuals from progressing, particularly from a neurodiverse perspective. We train our officers to be homogenous. We train them into a uniform. We train them to behave and think in exactly the same way. Which is really interesting because the amount of conversations I've had with our Chief Constable group over the last 5 years, and actually a little bit longer, is that we want diversity of thought in policing. That's what we really want, but not that thought. That's not what we mean by diversity of thought. So, age, oh sorry, not quite yet, no. Age equals experience equals progression, obviously. You won't see many chief constables who are 18 to 24. Most of them are at retirement age. It's a reality. There are limited or no direct entry possibilities at senior ranks. Particularly for BTP, we haven't bought into that. And that's a cultural issue. Again, that's something I need to convince our organisation is an opportunity. For the last 5 years, it's an opportunity we're not willing to look at. That's a problem for me. There are direct entry opportunities available. The College of Policing, who's our kind of governing body, they've designed these programmes that actually we can have direct entry superintendents. A superintendent is a senior rank within our organisations. And the idea behind that and why the college was quite keen to progress that activity was because we want that diversity of thought. Sadly, what I'm hearing for those police forces that have used direct entry superintendents is that it's not working. People are not staying. Why is that? Because the culture. We don't want that diversity of thought. Difficult. Full-time and shift work for BTP, massive problem. We don't have any part-time officers, not one. We don't allow it. We don't accommodate for it. We can, and we could, but we don't. Why not? Culture. Something we don't really understand. We don't understand the value. We don't understand how it can be applied. We've applied it when we've had to, for compliance reasons. So for those people who maybe have a disability, for those people where we're using it as a reasonable adjustment, then we'll do it. But actually, as a basic employment opportunity for anyone, it's not there. You've got to beg for it. That's an opportunity for us as well. It's physically demanding. Now, I could talk to you about how being a police officer is not suitable for a 50-year-old woman, but I will be shot down by particularly Melissa, who is the chair of our Female Police Association, because actually that's not true. That's not true at all. It's a perception, culture. Always goes back to this culture of what is policing, what's it look like, what's the reality of what policing is. And ultimately, it's an unattractive environment for women, particularly, because we police the railway network. How interesting is that for the majority of women who want to be a police officer? Probably less interesting than working for the Met, or working for Westminster. We police the railway network. How dull. And that's what we hear. We really, really struggle to attract any females, let alone accommodating difference and different needs. Does everyone recognise that? It's a really bad Word document version of what our structure looks like. Most structures will look exactly the same. I don't think there are many organisations where actually the highest rank or the highest paid individual outnumber the people at the bottom. This is what BTP looks like. And to be blunt, there's your entry point. That's your option. That's all you can do to join BTP as a police officer. Police staff, slightly different. But around, I would say, 2/10 of our employees are police staff. And the majority of those are based in London. We're actually a national police force. We cover England, Scotland and Wales. So there's always going to be that issue of disproportionality there as well, around attracting people to our organisation. But actually, in order to be a police officer, you need to join here at the police constable level. Then you join to sergeant, inspector, chief inspector, superintendent, chief superintendent. Then if you're lucky, you make it to the chief officer group. Now actually the majority of our PCs across England, Scotland and Wales, we've probably got around 2,800 police constables, but we've got 4,000 police officers in the UK. So the vast majority are here, fighting for the opportunities to progress. Most of those opportunities are going to be in London. Again, the majority of our officers are in London. So if you join the police force in York, you've got no chance, unless you're willing to move to London. Now, who does that rule out? People with families. People whose families have other careers, children. You know, all of those kind of issues block us straight away. If you want a career at BTP and you want to make it to the top, you're going to have to move to London, I'm afraid. That's your option. Culture. There's absolutely no reason for that. But it's been in place as long as I've been here, and a lot longer before then. So these are the kind of things that we need to address continually. And obviously, as you go up the rank, you can come out, you can go back in, but actually you're not going to hop, skip and a jump. You can't go from PC to chief inspector by passing an exam. It's experiential. You need to be able to do the sergeant's job, and then do the inspector's job, and then do the... So all of those barriers get bigger and bigger and bigger the further up the organisation you want to go. So it's a culture we need to address. So what have we done? Again, I go back to when Denise asked me, talk about pay gaps. Well, we've not been doing anything about pay gaps. Well, we have. We started positive action work, and I had to remind myself that actually everything that we've been doing since I took the role on back in 2013 was about addressing gaps of some form. Some of those gaps are really obvious. Some of those gaps, we have no idea what they look like at the moment. So I can talk to you quite eloquently about what our gender looks like. I can tell you exactly what the ethnicity of our entire workforce looks like. I can tell you what, is it 2.3% of our workforce looks like by disability? 2.3%. How on earth are we going to see where those gaps are if only 2.3% of our workforce can actually tell us and have the confidence to tell us that they have a disability? We know it's much bigger than that. We know that. But they won't tell us that. So we're guessing, we're kind of fumbling around in the dark. And it's interesting, obviously, we're going to have a change in legislation coming up relatively soon that I don't think we're prepared for. And I would imagine quite a lot of organisations are probably not prepared for either when it comes to disability in particular. Not just neurodiversity, but disability in the widest sense. It's about, do we know what the workforce looks like for a start? I don't. I can guess. People can tell me, this is what we think, but actually, how much work can I do around that? Not a great deal. That's the first thing. And why don't people tell us? Culture. They don't tell us because actually they think, my career's over. If I tell you that I have a disability of some form, or that I need some kind of adjustment in place, my career's been, that's it, my career's over. You know, I can't work full time, I can't work weekends, I can't work shift work. All of those things are barriers to progression. Because if you can't do that, you won't make it a sergeant. Sorry, it's that simple. Now that's not appropriate, that's completely inappropriate for any organisation. And I think describing cultural norm as this is the way policing is, isn't really a mitigating factor, in my opinion. So, this is what we've done. Positive action, really easy. Gender, Bame, we know what it looks like. So we've done all of these activities and we've been doing them really, really successfully. I think at one point in our recruits, and this is our pre-application section 158 work, our recruits, we were getting around 50 to 60% Bame actually into the organisation through the assessment centre, and similar numbers of females. Now with a 50-50 rough gender split in the UK, that's brilliant. But how do we retain them? Because we're not doing anything about part-time working, flexi working, accommodating them. Everyone has to train in London. You're joining the organisation and you want to be based in Manchester and you've got a family, well, I'm sorry, you've got to spend 10 weeks in London training. No, you can't take your kids. No, we won't accommodate that. Sorry, we can't give you any childcare. Have you got someone who can look after them for you? Real problems, and these are cultural norms that we absolutely have to remove in order to get that right. We can funnel in a huge amount into the organisation at PC level, which obviously is going to affect our gender pay gap. It's going to make that pay gap wider, because suddenly we've got many, many more females at the bottom of the organisation than we do at the top. But that's the only way we're going to get them to the top, getting them in at the bottom first. So it's not a quick win for us, it never was. We knew it wouldn't be a quick win. Pre-application workshops, anonymised applications, really basic things. I think most organisations are doing this as standard now. Really, really basic, pre-application section 158. But it works. How we retain them is the next problem. these smiling faces. I smile like that when I'm in the office, every day. Trust me. So what works? Consistent advertising, visual representation. Look at us, we are diverse. And we are, as an organisation, we actually are diverse. But that diversity is probably in pockets in London, unsurprisingly. It's where our headquarters is, it's where the majority of our offices are. If you look in the north of England, or the northwest, or Scotland, or the southwest, there is no diversity there, actually. That's a problem. Incidental advertising, what we do out there in the organisation, for the organisation operation, is really important. People can see us. Oh, that's an interesting place to work, that's interesting work that you're doing. And that's where we get most of our interest, actually. So that kind of paid for advertising in Grazia. Interesting, I actually had a potential female applicant that spoke to me directly, didn't ever apply. He spoke to me directly about the advert that we paid for in Grazia magazine, which cost us a huge amount of money. We kind of thought Grazia, mainly read by women, fantastic, we're going to, the imagery was right, what we were talking even explicitly in that imagery about actually we want, a gender diverse workforce, come and work for us. And this person actually emailed me, because my email was on one of the adverts, and kind of said, yeah, it's really interesting, I saw your advert in Grazia magazine, I passed it to my boyfriend, he's going to apply. Great. It was absolutely worthless. We paid all that money to a target audience, and that target audience wasn't listening. Really interesting, lesson learned for us that, that was a quick win, that was really easy. We thought we'd kind of cracked it, ultimately. And recruitment fairs, really obvious thing. So our workforce is building, but it's building at the bottom. So what do we do about that? How do we address this issue of culture? Bit by bit. Bit by bit is the only way we can do it. Because actually, the organisation isn't making decisions. People are. And the people who make the decisions are white men. They understand the need for diversity and an inclusive workplace, but they don't really see the barriers. So we can explain those barriers to people. And say, these are the barriers in place, this is why you're not getting people at this rank, this is why you're not attracting the right audience, this is why people aren't staying with us. It didn't affect my career. I made it to the top. Surely if you're committed enough, you can make it to the top anyway. I heard that once. That really worried me. Because actually, then you don't really understand where the barriers are. You don't really understand why people aren't staying with us. You don't really understand why people aren't attracted to BCP or policing in general. So there's still work to do. Like I said at the beginning, we haven't cracked it. I'm not here to talk about how great the organisation is. I'm here to kind of remind people that there are barriers in place that you may not be able to remove straight away. But there are other things that you can do that will influence the groundswell ultimately, and that groundswell will change the organisational culture over time, but it will take time. This is what our gender pay gap looks like at the moment, just if anyone's interested. Our mean pay gap is 10%, 10.02%. That's actually quite good. The national average is 16, police forces is 18. We're doing okay, I think. Our median pay gap is about 15, and the average is 18.4% for police forces. But actually, the surprising thing was, go back to everything I've just told you in the last 10 minutes about how exclusive our organisation is, how we can only funnel people in at the bottom. We reduced that pay gap over the last 12 months. How on earth did we do that? Because the culture's changing. It's changing slowly, but it is changing. We are more willing to look at individual flexible working, agile working requests. We are retaining women where we're actually losing a disproportionate number of women over a certain amount of time. Now that must mean that something's changing within the organisation. Can I measure that? Having a chat to that gentleman at the back earlier about, isn't it great that you've got loads of stats that shows where the problem is, but stats don't really measure inclusion. can give us an indication of where we're going, but actually that's really unsustainable because we're working for diversity, not inclusion. We're increasing the diversity of our workforce, not our inclusive practices. And it's that kind of bright light, really. We're kind of seeing results and we're going, we're doing it, we're winning. We're not, because actually we're not changing anything about the actual workplace culture. But we will. By hook or by crook, I will get it right. These are just some of the things that we've done over the last 12 months or so. Make a Difference Awards. It's an internal awards that we've created. But actually, why does that matter? Because it makes people happy. It makes people want to stay. For the first year, we had a diversity award. Now, interestingly enough, we didn't get anyone put forward for the diversity award in the first year. How shocking is that? We're doing loads of work, but actually no one was willing to kind of go, that person's doing great work. So it didn't really work for us. We removed that category and suddenly we got about 10 applications the following year, which were all around diversity campaigns in different categories. Isn't that interesting how you label things? It puts people off. Do people really understand what inclusion and diversity is in the workplace? I do. It's my day job. I get paid to do it. Some of my colleagues do. They were here today. They get paid. You know, it's their passion. But actually, you're out for each person. When you talk about inclusion and diversity activity or quality activity, they go, I don't know what you're on about. I'm not doing any of that. And you probably are on a day-to-day basis, but you're not recognising it. Because actually, we're talking about terminology, language, really. That's exclusionary, again. All of these kind of things are exclusionary practices. Really interesting one, because I've had debates a number of times within our workforce about actually, does it matter if the Chief Constable cares about inclusion and diversity? Does it matter if he talks about it? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't, really. It does because it sends a very strong message to the rest of the organisation that this is a priority. But actually, the because I said so route of getting things done doesn't always work. Oh, I've got to do it, the Chief Constable told me to do it, so I'm just going to do Bame anyway. And yeah, I spoke to some black people last week, so there you go. I've ticked my list. I've done my inclusion and diversity activity for this year. Didn't I do well? There wasn't a single complaint that came out of that interaction, so success. Actually, that's not what we're talking about here. It should be that groundswell going back to the organisation. I want the organisation to come up with results. The Chief Constable can say this is important, but he's not there. He's not doing it. He's not speaking to these people every single day. He doesn't understand what it's like when you've got a family, a young family, and you're female, and actually you've got to pick that child up at 3 o'clock, but your shift work finishes at 5. He doesn't understand that. It doesn't apply to him, the reality. So actually the activity's got to come from the organisation up at the same time as the message tagging. It's our middle management that will block us. Does anyone recognise that? I do what I'm told, I do what, I do what's operationally important, I'm target driven, this is what I need to achieve, that's a problem, I'm dealing with that. It's those middle managers we actually need to get on side. Different programmes, promoting difference, fast track programmes, these are all programmes specifically for underrepresented groups. They work, they really work. I'm very proud of our promoting difference programme particularly, which is something we created in order to develop and progress individuals from a Bame background and females. And actually 100% success rate so far. Everyone who's gone on that programme has passed and actually been promoted. And are still with us, I should point out. Because it's great to be promoted and then kind of I'll go somewhere else, take a promotion somewhere else. Actually they're still here, clearly working, something's happening. And then continuing with that positive action work as well. What's next? Isn't that an interesting statement? Continue to monitor and review the gender pay gap. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to monitor and review the gender pay gap. I can't even say it. How's that going from a say change? I know what needs to happen. It's my job. But actually, I need other people to help me get there. So it's actually about creating partnerships, working groups, people within the organisation at different ranks, not the chief officer group. They can help, but actually I want people within the organisation who are passionate, who care about this matter, who have experienced it firsthand with blockers, to actually help us come up with a solution. So it's about working groups. Let's do something about it. Let's practically do something about it, something that we can see, that we can measure. Change our training process. Now, I spoke earlier about the culture of you come to London and you do 10 weeks training. That's your option, I'm afraid. We need to do something about that. We're looking at that now. If that means that we have to buy into training offered by other forces, we'll do that. If it means that we can do some kind of distance learning, that's an interesting, innovative approach for policing. I don't think any police service has tried that one yet. We'll try that. We've got to find something, some way of removing that barrier. And that's a barrier before they've even joined the organisation. How terrible is that? What does it tell them about the organisation? We're going to put a barrier straight away. You might be 18 and young and female potentially, but actually there's your first barrier. Try and get around that one. Oh, and by the way, there'll be more when you get through the organisation, but don't worry. We'll deal with that as we go through. Where are the real gender barriers? It's culture. I think we all know that. We don't see any senior females within our organisation, and that means you can't see it here because actually there's no one to see. Other forces have done it. We've got senior officers, so let's use them. Quite protective in policing. It's like, well, we don't want to do what West Midlands Police are doing because actually we want to do it our way. Well, actually, let's do it West Midlands Police way because it works. Let's look at what we're doing. And speak to people. Really important. Ask them, why? How do you feel? Where's the barriers for you? What's the reality of your experience? And we're not just talking about, being female. We're talking about those life milestones, effectively, that you can have a fantastic career and then you hit menopause. The wheels come off suddenly because we're expecting you still to be as fit as you were before and to be able to respond operationally and to be able to pass the fitness test, which is mandatory for everyone. Now, that's lovely, but what will we put in place to support people when those milestones hit? It's a couple of successes, but actually a disproportionate number of females leave at that point. They hit menopause, can't do it anymore, out they go. That's not right. Because they're at that point in the rank structure where actually, in their potentially mid-30s to late 40s, roughly, they're probably getting to middle senior manager roles, and we're losing them. So we need to find some way of being able to support them there as well. Agile and part-time working options. It's like we're reinventing the wheel, to be honest. These things are not really that innovative, but for policing they are. They really are. Agile working, we can't have shifts where we need 5 police officers and only 4 turn up. We need to think of a better way of doing that. We've got to be able to accommodate these things. So returning to a substantive position following maternity and adoption leave. Tiny percentage of our females who go on maternity leave, particularly female police officers, return. Really, and there's no reason for that actually, because culture, we don't offer part-time, we don't offer flex work, we don't offer agile working. There's no such thing as a desk job in policing anymore. If you can't be operationally deployed, then you're no good to us. That's a really difficult one. In our austerity and resource. We're going through a change programme at the moment, which also doesn't help. Lots of our processes and infrastructure is being reviewed because we need to save £30 million by 2021. So we're cutting resources. Oh, sorry, we can't accommodate that flex working request because actually we need you full time. That's a problem, and that's a particular problem for us at the moment. But let's also look at disability. I really want to see what our disability pay gap looks like at the moment because I actually think it's massive. I think it's massive because the information isn't there. We don't know. Is it massive if we knew what 100% of our workforce looked like with disability? probably still is, let's be honest. So let's have a look at that. And then let's look at what other police forces are doing. There's best practice out there, let's share it. So, to summarise, I hope I've probably not given you anything you didn't already know, hopefully. Just give you a bit of an idea about where our barriers are, because the pay gap, it's a lovely concept, but actually, let's break that down. What are we talking about? What do we mean by pay gap? We actually mean workforce representation, but workforce representation across all the ranks. We're talking about barriers, we're talking about culture, we're talking about inclusive workplace practices. All of those kind of things are what we need to do in order to address any of our pay gaps. I hope that was useful. Thank you very much.